several key factors that you want to consider whenever working on a development project. Before you start a development project, you want to think about a couple, two or three key decision drivers on the project. So what are the three main things you want to think about? So number one is highest and best use. Whenever you're looking at a development project, okay, you want to think about what is the highest and best use of that land. When you're looking at land, envision that, thinking about it, what's the highest and best use? And you got to figure out how to determine highest and best use for a project. Number two, you need to be able to accurately calculate the value of that project. So that's taking into consideration the highest and best use, and then being able to accurately calculate what's the value of that project going to be once the use is maximized. So you got to understand how to calculate the income and expenses. You got to be able to calculate what it's going to cost to get it there, and understand what the financing looks like, what the cost of capital looks like, all of those things, all of those relevant factors to try to determine what your yield is and your margin's going to be on that project. So first and foremost, when you identify a parcel, what's the highest and best use? Second, what is the value of that project from an income standpoint, from an exit standpoint? You want to have multiple exits. The third biggest factor that you need to consider when looking at a development project is going to be risk. You need to be able to accurately calculate the risk, understand what that risk is, and then assess whether or not you can absorb the worst case scenario, assuming that it happens. So being able to understand and accurately calculate the risk, you're going to have, in order to be able to do that, you're going to need to know what is the value. So you're going to have to figure out what's the value, what's the investment, what's the equity at stake, what all is required, what is your risk assessment in terms of time frame, lease up, exit, multiple exits, interest rate environment, economic environment, all of those types of things. As we've seen here in 2020 going into 2021, anything can and will happen. So those are the three biggest things you need to consider when doing a development project. What's the highest and best use of the property or building that you're tearing down, doing an adaptive reuse, whatever it is, could be residential, commercial, multifamily, could be anything, self-storage, mobile home parks, any commercial or residential property you go into, no matter how big or small, you got to understand highest and best use, maximizing not only the density of the property, but the income of the property. Number two, you need to understand what the value of that's going to be, not just on an income approach, but also on replacement cost, on market comps, things like that. You need to understand the values, understand the income, understand the market cap rates, things like that. And then third, you need to be able to accurately calculate the risk, understand what that risk is, what the cost of that risk is, all of the other risk factors associated with development or the acquisitions, and be able to handle the downside of that risk if the worst case scenario happens. So those are the three biggest things you need to consider when looking at and assessing the real estate development, real estate investment opportunities. If you need help, I have some great courses that'll help you. I also offer coaching. So check them out on my website. They're in the comments below. You can check out links to my courses, to my website. Remember, all it takes is one idea, one concept, one idea to change the entire trajectory of your life and your business. Many great companies, many of the wealthiest individuals on the planet all started with one simple idea. Amazon was an idea out of the garage of Jeff Bezos when he first started out. OtterBox, one of the top cell phone companies out there, cell phone case companies out there, started in the garage of Kurt Richardson. And it was just an idea, just a concept. Pretty much every company out there, every product out there, every industry out there started with an idea. All it takes is one idea. It takes faith in it, the means to implement it, action, and then that is where greatness happens. Success is created. Your life, your business, everything changes.